The time has come for you to lip sync for your life. Funny enough, I'm also wearing my Alaska hoodie. That's not what I was supposed to say. What I was supposed to say is the time has come for me to continue my Bandwagoning YA series. Yes, I just hit myself in the face with a book. It's 1 a.m. So if you don't know what this series is, I will leave a link up in the cards to the video where I introduced this series about a year ago, over a year ago. Anyway, basically in this series, I am finally getting to popular YA fantasy series that have been sitting on my shelves forever. Basically, I'm reading the first books in these series, hence Falling Kingdoms, and I'm going to be doing like an as I read style video where I basically read the book and I talk about it as I'm reading it. There may be spoilers. I am not 100% sure. Usually I try to keep these pretty spoiler free and talk in vague terms, but in my last one that I did have a little spoilery section, so if I do give any spoilers, I will warn you in advance. And as I just mentioned, this is actually the second video in the series. I have already done one on Daughter of Smoke and Bone. That's up in the cards as well. While we're on the topic, I should probably talk about another book that was supposed to be in the series. I mentioned in my last video that I'm not planning on reading Illuminae anymore. It's not gonna happen. I've also removed another book from this series, and that is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. And before you start saying, no, not again, you've been saying you're gonna read this book for like 3 or 4 years now. I tried reading it. I started filming one of these videos, reading the book and talking about it, and I got to chapter 5, and I couldn't deal with it. I will talk about this more in my TBR unhaul video, which will be coming at the beginning of May. Not sure when this one's going up. Sometime soon-ish. Anyway, but this should be up before that one, hopefully. And if it is, then you'll see that soon-ish. And if this goes up after that, it'll be linked up in the cards. The long and short of it is basically I started the book and there were things that I immediately disliked about it, and based on reviews I've seen, I know that those things continue throughout the book, and I can just assume that I'm going to dislike that throughout the book, and I really don't want to waste my time on it when I know that I'm gonna be having that problem. So I just set it down, not gonna read it anymore. We'll get to that when I do my TBR unhaul. Right now, Falling Kingdoms. This is what's important. I've always said that I feel more optimistic about enjoying Falling Kingdoms than I do about Throne of Glass. This one has just always sounded slightly more intriguing to me. The thing though is, all I know is that it is a fantasy novel that has multiple perspectives. I believe it's 4. I genuinely don't know what this series is about. I just know that it is a fantasy series with multiple perspectives. That's it. I am assuming that some sort of kingdom is having problems. That's all I know. So, without any further ado, let's jump into this. So I just read the first 50 or so pages of Falling Kingdoms, and I guess I don't really have much to update y'all on, but I figured I should update because I'm done reading for the night. So far I've been introduced to all 4 of the characters that it mentions on like the back of the book, but I've only read from the point of view of 3 of them. One is Cleo, who's a princess, then Jonas, who's the son of a wine cellar in a different kingdom, and then Magnus, who is a prince in yet another kingdom. And I kind of don't like any of them. I guess maybe Jonas is the one that I like the most, but like, I don't have strong opinions yet. I feel like obviously it's the first 50 pages, things are just getting started. Nothing is really compelling me yet. Like, there are a couple intriguing mysteries to be solved so far. Like, she's dropped a couple hints as to like things that we might need to figure out further along in the book, but nothing's really like fully grabbed me. I'm also kind of finding the same continuing problem of finding it difficult to relate to the characters. Like I've said in other videos where I've talked about this, I think that you can read YA at any age, but I think that I'm personally reaching a point where I'm not enjoying it as much as I used to. I don't know if this is temporary, I don't know if this is permanent, but I think it's largely because of the characters. Maybe it's that the characters are immature and so far seemingly spoiled 16 to 18-year-olds. Maybe it's the writing. Maybe the writing feels more juvenile and possibly cliche, but something is causing a barrier. And like, I feel like I'm being very negative right now. So far I'm enjoying the book, but like not in love with it. Like, so far I don't usually give like star ratings as I go through the book. I wait until the very end, but like so far it's like a 3-star read. Like, it's fine, but I mean, it's 50 pages into the book. I know I shouldn't be like preemptively saying star ratings 50 pages into the book, but like that's kind of like my current thoughts on it. So far nothing has made me fall in love with it, which, like I said, it's 50 pages in. Like, I'm not going to base my entire opinion off this book on the first 50 pages, but that's kind of like currently how I'm feeling about it. So far, it's fine. I'm liking it, but I'm not completely sucked in by any means. So it's a few days later, and I haven't read any more of the book. It's right here. My bookmark is still 50 pages in. And I realized that I have a grand total of 2 days left in this month to finish this book because of my Unhaul series. And I think it's not a secret that I didn't totally love what I read the other day, like obviously because I didn't continue the book, but it did definitely intrigue me, and especially intrigued me a lot more than Throne of Glass. So like, I do want to finish this book in time, so that if I do want to keep the book in the series, I can. Because if I don't finish this by the end of the month, this is 100% what I'm getting rid of. I have 4 saves, and all 4 of them are being used for things that I actually want to keep at this point. So, if I don't finish this, this is going. So, I want to have the choice whether to keep this or not, and at this point, like, part of me just doesn't want to finish this book because I'm clearly not feeling it, and I know it's only 50 pages in, I know. But, like, I want the choice. And I also don't want to read this book over the next couple days. So I'm gonna drink my coffee. I'm gonna get some reading done. I'm gonna get another 50 pages in. And I think if I still am just really not feeling it, I might consider just stopping, because I don't want to force myself through this book if I don't want to read it, because I have a whole massive pile of books sitting on my shelf that I really, really want to read that I haven't been reading because I needed to read this. So, that being said, I'm going to read a little bit. I think I'm going to try to get to page 100 or just get another 50 pages in, and then I'll get back with you. Update, so it's a little bit later. I've been reading. I decided to read past just 50 pages because I've got 2 days left in the month. I should get to the halfway point at least today. So I'm going to be reading up until a little bit past 200 pages, which is about the halfway point. And I needed to take a break to talk about my thoughts on it so far because they're very mixed. On the one hand, I'm enjoying it. I think that each of the characters is pretty unique and interesting to follow, but on the other hand, the number of like convenient things that are happening for these characters is getting to be a little bit ridiculous. For example, and this is going to be spoilery, I haven't decided if this whole video is going to be spoilery, Jonas is like definitively like, I need to get an audience with the chief. And it's established that yes, Jonas is like a total hottie and able to woo the ladies, but what he's able to do is that like he finds the chief's daughter dancing in a bar, A. B, or 2, whatever, he is able to make this daughter like obsessed with him and like him. 3, that daughter then invites him to dinner with the chief literally a week later, a week. And then the daughter leaves the room. I can't remember if she was dismissed or if she dismissed herself. Either way, Jonas then lays out his entire plan about how he wants to take down this other country. And then, because the chief also wants to take down this other country, he just lays out his entire plan in front of Jonas, a commoner, who just, like, his daughter happens to like. This is not realistic in any way, shape, or form. I find myself enjoying myself and, like, enjoying reading it, and then something that ridiculous happens, and I'm like, this guy rules the entire land, and he's laying out all of his battle plans to some rando commoner. That makes no sense. The one that just happened, which is why I'm recording this right now, is that one of the guards of Aranos, I think that's how it's pronounced, or Aranos, I don't know. One of the guards who was looking over the princess goes to the king because the princess has escaped. And the king, after, like, getting really mad at him, like, breaks down and just starts, like, telling his, like, past to this random guard. And, like, on the one hand, I get it, the princess escaped and, like, the king is, like, really stressed. But even the author notes that the guard thought it was a non sequitur. Like, these things are not related, and the king just conveniently is telling some of his, like, pretty personal past to a guard. It's just these little convenient things keep falling in characters' laps, and, like, if it happened one time and it wasn't, like, incredibly convenient, I might let it slip, but this is, like, multiple times that something, like, fairly convenient has happened for one of these characters, and it's just, I can't. So yeah, I'm gonna go back to reading, and I will update y'all when I have reached the halfway mark. Is there a term for something that's, like, not quite insta-love, but, like, kind of insta-love? Because that's what just happened. I'm so close to giving up on this book. I'm also realizing how ridiculous it is that I'm just letting this hang out on my head. But that's the point I'm at right now. So, like, this might be my first update for the day. Hi, it's the next day. I'm moving on to the second half of the book. I'm on page 287. And, like, this, like, romantic subplot has been hinted at. But, like, it's also been hinted that it could go in multiple directions. And, like, it just happened out of nowhere. From what I remember from that first half, one of them was very obviously developing feelings and blatantly mentions it. The other one, like, I guess it was kind of hinted at, but, like, not very heavily. And, like, it just happened out of nowhere. Like, maybe if there wasn't, like, a second potential option that had been suggested throughout the first 2/3 of this book, like, maybe I would have been less surprised, or, like, I would have thought it was, like, less weird, but it literally just, why? I don't know. I really want to stop reading this book, but we're here. We're in it. We're doing this, so I'm gonna go back to reading. And that's the situation. So it's a couple seconds later, and I found it. I found the key line. So first of all, let me just say that she says, spoilers, by the way, so this is a spoilery section. I'll give you a time to skip to. So Cleo says, "It's obvious I can't marry Aaron or anyone else. I refuse, no matter what my father says." Her heart swelled to overflowing. I was meant to be with you. Okay, you just kissed him for the first time. You weren't even sure how you felt about him 5 seconds ago. And now suddenly, you're meant to be together. And then on the next page, this is my favorite. "You saved me, and even before that, well, I just knew without knowing." I just knew without knowing what is that line. That is so dumb. I just... Can I give up now? Are we to the point where I can give up? So less than 10 pages ago, Cleo and Theon, you know, pronounced their love to each other, and then he got run through by a sword. Great. What was the point of any of that? Why did we need to have this whole scene about them, like, confessing their love to each other when he gets killed in the next one? Why? What is the point of any of this? Why am I still reading this? Seriously, can I give up now? Magnus did the thing. Why did Magnus do the thing? Why is this a thing that just happened? Why? You guys, Magnus just kissed his sister. Why am I still reading this book? Okay, so I have just finished Falling Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. I know that I haven't really filmed any updates since those last, like, complainy sections, but I finished the book, and I'm gonna be doing a spoiler-free little discussion-y section about it. I've been kind of speculating this throughout the entire book, and nothing has really changed. I am giving this 3 out of 5. I am slightly more optimistic about potentially continuing the series now that I've read that last, like, 100 pages or so, but I definitely still think that it was just alright. Like, I liked it, but there were definitely a lot of things that I had problems with. Like, this is definitely more of a low 3 out of 5. So while I feel a little bit more optimistic about the potential of actually continuing the series than I did earlier when reading, I still am not super confident that I am going to continue the series. Per usual, this section is not going to be a review, but more just kind of like a general discussion about the book. So, let's talk about the magic system, because that's the first thing that is kind of coming to mind. I felt like the magic system was very underdeveloped. With any sort of ability that someone acquires, they have to work at it, and this book did the thing where, like, suddenly someone can just use magic, and it's not really explained, like, how it works. It just comes from within them. And, like, you shouldn't just be able to be, like, all-powerful immediately upon discovering that you have powers. Like, there should be some sort of work put into it, because that's not how magic systems are supposed to work. You're not supposed to just immediately be able to do all of the things. Like, this is definitely a trope that exists in books where, like, someone realizes they have magical powers and then just can do all of the things with the magical powers, and that was definitely present in this book. And that was very frustrating. What I did appreciate was the way that the different storylines wove together. That's something that I always love in books. I don't know if this was done particularly well or particularly poorly. I would say that sometimes it seemed a little bit more convenient than it should have. But on the whole, it was fine. It's not the worst interwoven, like, plot lines that I've ever read, and it's certainly not the best either. I will say, though, that I think that each of the characters that we read from is very distinct, very different, and has a very unique point of view. I never found myself getting confused about what character I was reading from. That said, I don't particularly like any of these characters. I kind of don't mind Cleo, but I kind of don't like the rest of them. We'll see how that plays into it going forward, but that's kind of my general take, is that I think that the characters are distinct, but I also don't really like them. And I can't quite tell for some of them whether that's because they're supposed to be unlikable or not. There's one who definitely is very clearly written to be unlikable, but I can't tell for the other two. So I addressed the characters in the magic system. I think the world was decent. Rhodes did a good job of distinguishing the different kingdoms, so that was important, but that's kind of like a bare minimum thing. I don't think that there was anything done that was particularly impressive about the world build. Like, I think that Rhodes did the bare minimum for the world build to not be bad. Like, she made the kingdoms distinct. Like, they were definitely their own separate entities. It was clear which one was which. Good job. I think there were points of the plot kind of meandered a little bit, but I think that's also kind of to be expected when you have multiple perspectives that you're weaving together. So that doesn't bother me too much. Overall, I mean, you can tell from my tone and from my general feeling about everything that, like, there are some positives and there are some negatives about the book, but none of them are, like, super aggressive. Like, I don't feel very strongly about anything in this book. That's why it's a 3 out of 5. At this exact moment, I would say that there's a slightly higher than 50% chance of me continuing on to book 2, but I think that if I feel about the same way about book 2, like if I don't like it more than this one, I think that's the point where I'm going to say I've had it with the series, simply because, I mean, it's fine so far, but I don't want to read 6 books that I just give 3 stars. If I'm going to read a 6-book series, I want to be impressed, and so far, it's fine. It's interesting. I'm somewhat intrigued, but I'm definitely not engrossed. I'm definitely not clamoring to pick up book 2 from my shelf and read it. It's fine. So that is it for this As I Read video for Falling Kingdoms, which I still don't have the dust jacket on, but oh well. Let me know down in the comments if you have read Falling Kingdoms and what you thought of it. As always, I will leave links down in the description to my blog, Twitter, and Goodreads. Please add me as a friend on Goodreads. I would love to be friends with all of you. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!